of the Buddhas of the 10 directions and 3 times, source of the 84,000 categories of the teaching and Lord of the Sanghas. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Idams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom.
Namge Dadan Nyambe Samchen Tamche Chuju Tu Somje Tijin Shibatan Jeje Ko Zon Toe Yoden Tenle Tan Mubure Juwa Chuje Pongwa Dondra Jeje Zayin June Babe Kende Tan Jeje Nga Chinchen Zawa Dan Jubare Jibe Paden Lama Tamba Na Kyabzan Jewo Yedan Jingore Je Lazo Nala Kyabzan Jewo Sanje Jumden De Namla Kyabzan Jewo Tambe Chu Namla Kyabzan Jewo Pai Begendu Namla Kyabzan Jewo Pawang Gandro Chujon Zume Zo Yeshi Je Jiandan Denpa Kyabzan Jewo.
Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path.
Jangjo Nyingbo Jiji Ba Sanje Namla Kyabzan Ji Chudan Jangjo Semba Ye Zola Deshin Kyabzan Ji Jedang Nge Deje Ge Jangjo Tone Ge Badam Jangjo Zembe La Bala Dada Renji Nevada Tijin Rola Pendando Jangjo Zemne Jejin Tijin Dune La Bala Remba Jindro
In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
Sanje Chodan Zoje Chonan Lai Janjo Bardo Dane Jabzenji Dage Jezoi Jibe Sonam Je Rola Pencere Sanje Dropajo.
May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Namga Danyambe Simchen Tamje Dewa Dan Dewe Jodan Dembara Joje Dunga Dan Dunga Ye Jodan Kawara Joje Dunga Mebe Dewa Dan Mindrawa Joje Nyereng Chatan Nindan Trawe Tong Nyum la ne bai jo.
Refuge of all sentient beings without exception, divine subjugator of terrifying Maras, together with our hosts of demons, the one who understands all realities without exception exactly as they are. Transcendent conqueror, together with your disciples, please come here to this place.
Banza samanza, banza samanza, banza samanza. Malu simchen kunjen gonjojen, dede bonje mezin jomzeala. Muna malu jijin jenjorobe, Jumden gorjin indre Jesus orgam badan bush dube alogin gende niveti shabda pradita zoha.
The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers, is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the four continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. Whatever merit I've gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate.
Zashi bujui jujin me do jan rira lingsi nyende jembande sanje shen la me de purwaye dogun nanda jinde jubai joi jan zarwadan jujin jabbadan Jesus, Yeran, Gojin, Zowaye, Gewa, Junze, Dangi, Jizapa. Tam, Zobe, Janjo, Jemo.
Okay, and then onward to page 11. Namo, to the Lama of utterly pure appearance and existence, I offer the fundamental ground of appearance and existence. I supplicate you to thoroughly liberate the three realms. Please grant your blessings and overturn the depths of samsara. Sublime Master, wish-fulfilling jewel, crown ornament, the inconceivable, inexpressible mind of the victorious ones, the one endowed with the five wisdoms of omniscience, gracious one, the embodiment of love, precious protector of beings, I supplicate you from within the essence of mind. Please grant your blessings from within the innate nature. Please bless me that I may realize the Dharmakaya that is beyond intellect, this primordially unborn, completely pure mind. Transcendent conqueror, the one thus gone, foe destroyer of afflictive emotions, completely perfected Buddha, endowed with logic and virtue, the one gone to bliss, knower of the world, captain, tamer of beings, the unexcelled teacher of gods and men, I respectfully prostrate, completely touching my head to the stainless feet of the unequaled Shakya king. At the time of your birth, leader of two-legged beings, taking 7 steps on this great earth, you proclaimed, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise even then, I prostrate. Possessing a body of complete purity, your sublime form is excellent. An ocean of primordial wisdom, you are like a golden mountain, the one whose renown is evident throughout the 3 worlds, protector of supreme attainment, to you I prostrate. To you who are endowed with the supreme marks, whose face is like an immaculate moon, to you, the one with a complexion like gold, I prostrate. A flawless one such as you among the three levels of existence is most exquisite. Unparalleled, omniscient one, to you I prostrate. Supreme among humans, captain of those to be tamed, the one thus gone who severs the all-binding fetters, who with senses pacified is utterly pacified and skilled in peace, to that one, the one who dwelled at Shravasti, I prostrate. Refuge endowed with great compassion, totally omniscient one who indicates the way, ground basis for oceans of merit and qualities, I prostrate to the one thus gone, the pure cause free from attachments, the virtue that liberates from the lower realms, the altogether supreme ultimate truth, to the pacifying Dharma I prostrate. Having been liberated, they also reveal the path to liberation. Thoroughly respectful of the three higher trainings, they are a field of sublime qualities. To the Sangha, I also prostrate. And then turn to page 9.
Namo Nansi Namdagi Lama La Nansi Shirshin Zun Jubambu Kamson Yondru the Zorande Korwa Tondru Zujinjelo Jeji Norwa Zogijin Mazan Jume Jarweto Chimbe Yeshi Adan Denze Danyin Garijin Drowa Jumze Rinpoche Dasim Nijin Ane Zorwande Chuni Jing Ando Jinjelo Semdo Nijime Namdande Lunde Jogo Dobai Jinjelo Jom Dende Tishin Shubha Trajumba Yanta Bara Zobe Sanje Rikba Tanshab Soyudem Devara Shiba Inji Den Jimba Jiyun Durwa Kalo Jurwa Lana Meba Lada Me Namje Domba Nyami Shaji Jarbu Shabji Dora Jama Meba Lango Radade Kube Janzalo Kanze Kanye Zoe Judan Sajin Telai Gombade Ngane Jiden Denai Joji Zonde Zenke Pai Julai Janzalo Namdai Gangai Jodo Suzan Waiji Janzo Zirji Lumbon Chauban Jiten Zona Lange Wangombo Joni Julai Janza Senjo Denbai Timin Dawe Sharzan Don Dawai Julai Janza Tudare Chunda Ziba Zomnan Zinyami Chenjen Chulai Janza Minjo Endorwai Kaloi Junzi Jenkun Jurun Kimwai Junzi Teshin Ombo Shishin Yirshi Shila Yu Shubai Dala Janza Lo Ngombo Turji Chedan Badam Je Jemba Domba Suna Yoden Janzo Jedi Lai Janza Taben Doja Javi Jugin Son Le Roishi Chido Todam Jojoro Shijoro Chulai Janzalo Chone Chove Lanyon Dans la Batala Rabde Shinge Damba Yanden Shingen Du Lai Janzalo.
Then to page 15. I prostrate to the youthful Manjusri, to those in the worlds of the 10 directions, however many there are, all the lions among humans who appear during the 3 times, to all of them without exception, I pay homage with respectful body, speech, and mind. The force of my aspiration prayer for excellent conduct brings all the victorious ones directly to mind. Bowing down with bodies as numerous as atoms in the realms, I prostrate to all the victorious ones. In a single atom there are Buddhas as numerous as atoms, each residing in the midst of their sons and daughters. Like that, I imagine the whole Dharmatatu completely filled with victorious ones. To those with oceans of inexhaustible, praiseworthy qualities, with sounds containing oceans of tones of melodic speech, I express the qualities of all the victorious ones. I praise all the Sugatas. With the finest flowers, the finest garlands, music, ointments, supreme parasols, supreme lamps, and the finest incense, I make offerings to the victorious ones. With the finest cloth, supreme scents, and fine powders equal to Mount Meru, all displayed in supreme and magnificent ways, I make offerings to those victorious ones. With vast and unsurpassable offerings, I venerate all the victorious ones. Through the power of faith and excellent conduct, I prostrate and offer to the victorious ones. Whatever negative actions I have performed with body, speech, and also mind, overpowered by desire, aggression, and stupidity, I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in everyone's merit, the victorious ones of the 10 directions, the Bodhisattvas, the Pratyeka Buddhas, those in training, those beyond training, and all beings. I request the protectors, the lamps of the worlds of the 10 directions, who, passing through the stages of awakening, attain Buddhahood beyond attachment, to turn the unsurpassable Dharma wheel. I supplicate with my palms joined together those who intend to demonstrate nirvana, to remain for kalpas as numerous as atoms in the realms, for the welfare and happiness of all beings. I dedicate whatever slight virtue is accumulated through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and supplicating to enlightenment. And to page 14.
Om Bhavan Jambara Shana Jarvala Jansalo Shinye Sodai Jujun Jidana Tuzon Jiba Meye Sange Dage Malu Tada Tamji La Ludang Aye Dangwe Janji Sombo Jube Malan Dobda Ge Jarwa Tamji Yijing Usan Shinge Dunye Lura Dubaye Jarwa Gunla Rabde Chansa Durji Denai Dunye Sanje Na Sanje Seje Huna Juba Tadai Juji Yana Malu Bajar Tagi Kawa Mo Tadai Nabai Meze Janso Na Yanji Yanlai Janso Drakunji Kyawa Gunji Yoden Raju Jen Deva Shiva Tamje Dagi Medo Tamba Jingwa Tamba Dansinye Namdai Shiva Dongjo Marmin Jodan Dubu Tamba Ye Jarwa Tadalane Jubaraji Naza Tamba Namdan Chenjo Zan Jimmy Pamare Rai Nyamba Kuba Chibaran Babi Jogunji Jarwa Tadalayan Jubaraji Chubai Kana Lami Jaje Wadada Jarwa Tamji Layam Sombo Jula Tibi Dobda Gi Jarwa Gunlai Jansaran Chubai Duchai Jedan Demo Wange Neludan Adan Teshin Yije Dikpa Dage Jeba Jinji Vadada Tamje Dage Sosoreja Choji Java Gundan Sanje Ziranja Namtan Lodan Malab Drawa Kunji Sunam Konlayan Tada Kunji Jisu Daye Konan Chojun Jiten Droma Nan Shangjo Rambara Sanje Majan Gombo Tada Dagi Tamje Lan Kolo Lana Meba Korwai Nyangen Dadon Kongshi Tada Lan Drawa Gunla Pension Devi Karwai Shingi Darni Juba Yang Dagi Tarma Rabja Zorwaj Chan Sarwa Dan Chujin Yaba Dan Jesu Yeron Gorshin Zorwaj Gewai Junze Dagi Jezab Tamje Zobe Shangje Jengo.
And to page 16. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the two vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
O Yusumjen Namji Samba Tam Loye Chidra Chidarwa Chechon Tumon Tekbayi Chujin Kolo Gorduzo. Good morning. Thank you for coming in here and also beyond our shrine room. There is maybe online have more friends joining us. First, I chant my lineage prayer, and then we can discuss more on something, at least. Zum je dam je jengo re dong jing kor jam so chap da ga rin zum me do je dan yin kam sum je je jar bo chap je ve mo do ro chma me ba lang go ra do do de go zum ge ba jin bu go ne jan sa shin jap sun je wo je wa ne cha rab jin chen wa tham je do do za wa jin bu go ne ji su sun de Ju xin ji la ban za do so gang ge jar song ta we ma ngong ka sun zhen ben dong zha xian zhen be so wo sun zhe zhe ren zhe gu me ge de zi jia ru tu jin da ma gu ni ju ren ji ten sum jin ko tu wang bin ma ge bo de ren da lo yan zo jiang or jian zo len bin me dong bo ze jia be nam zhou rong yu len ye Tan zo be ye den zo ber be ben man yu ne da lo ben zo ri jong ye shi ni den ge shi jin se bin chen ze jin ko ra gong xian ro gen ze mo men pa san ze lo ro gen de yan ge dong ye ji zhe ba me gong chun yin ka lan de ba gang jam ba re shu ne ge ne ga ve zo ge ju yin ro ben ma gar bon zhen be je le sang ze dong ge zha wai Yin kim zer lo zhun jo zer wei yang jing a ge bar mo da yi jiang kong ri to ga ren qi ning bong go ro yu den gun jung ga wei ji zer ning bu tang ze be bin nan jir ba zhen me we zer xiab je da yi jiang che dur jar wei se bo xie wa la nang dur cho bin wang jo xia war Song wang pan qiu dong a rang zheng wen jing mi qu ji wang bo gu jian za ri dong jian ber qiu nu xin lam le gong be long le bo be der ji lung to qun zi jian zu nga dan jiu me bam jiam yang nam jia la gu jian za yu den song ji gun tong yang na yang ka rin song ji gun le la wei za wei lam ma da la sur wan de dang song zhe wei lo na qiu la yi Okay, that's if you don't understand what I'm chanting, that's okay. Each of us have different lineages. I guess you can chant your one in whichever language you want to choose. And it's Dharma practice is just nothing but repetition. So we do same thing over and over until we get enlightenment. So our what we call in English housekeeping, or at least we need to check our motivations. That if your motivation is perfect, I'm sure may still have a little bit room for or touch, kind of final touch. And if your motivation is good, we can still make a best. So that's a good thing. And then, of course, all this morning, what we chant in 30 minutes is all about changing motivation and what is the core practice of the Buddhist practice. You can see there, of course, talk about nature of our mind and also how to cultivate bodhicitta. And also you can see these two are not two separate things. And here also these texts, in Tibetan we call Choying Dzod. Now maybe everyone's familiar with the text. As you can see, much shorter in the Tibetan. It's easy to say too, Choying Dzod. Maybe, I don't know, some of you maybe it's difficult to pronounce foreign language, but it's fine if you like Sanskrit to want to say Sanskrit, then Dharma Dhatu is introducing here that the concept or that is the most profound meaning of the whole Dharma, which is sometimes called ground. That is, we need to understand the ground or established ground. And you can see in English the process of Dharma Dhatu, or basic space of phenomena, is almost 3 or 4 times longer than the Tibetan title, but that's okay. Maybe more is better than less sometimes. And of course, then sometimes most texts would have these categories or divisions of the chapters. And these particular texts, we have 13 chapters. And the first 2 chapters are sort of we discussed already. And then I think we are on 3rd chapter. And keep in mind that these texts are all about bodhicitta, which we all love and we practice and we kind of generate that motivation or that practice. And if you don't know Sanskrit time, bodhicitta, bodhi means awaking, sometimes enlightenment, use Tibetan. In Tibetan, it's changchup, and sem is mind, that is chitta in Sanskrit. So we have bodhicitta or changchup sem, or awakened mind, that is the main main topic here. And these first two chapters are talking about mainly who we are and where we are and what we are doing in a samsara. But we are not cut off or disconnect from this bodhicitta, but we are in this realm of bodhicitta, or we are totally kind of immersed in this bodhicitta. But somehow we need to recognize our nature and our ability and our destiny. And chapter 3 is talk more about these examples. Somehow these profound meanings we cannot directly just point out what it is unless we have really great karma and great fortune with some teachings and also some fortune that we can recognize directly the meaning. So first, we need to know what is bodhicitta through the examples. And we went through a few verses, and now we are going to discuss more about the example. If anyone remember exactly which paragraph or which line on page 25? Where?
It's, after the identifying begin without transition or change, it starts where it says, its dynamic energy arises as anything at all, whether there is realization or not.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then, of course, these texts introduce that we have bodhicitta, that is our nature, but still somehow we seems to lost in this midst of samsara or wonderful. If you want to treat as wonderful, it's wonderful. If it's vicious cycle, if you want to treat it's really a vicious cycle. So that's up to us. But somehow we are caught in this endless cycle that due to this, it's called Dzod in Tibetan, and it seems these translations called dynamic energy or dynamism. So that's how somehow, in order to understand, we can conceptualize to understand what does that really mean. And I read Tibetan, and then we read together in English, and then we can discuss. Yeah. I think only three lines in Tibetan. We can.
Its dynamic energy arises as anything at all, whether there is realization or not. There is the universe of appearance and possibilities, and being perception is all.
Mm-hmm. So somehow, whenever we talk about texts or teachings, somehow we need to summarize into the ground path and fruition, since it helps our understanding. And of course that's related to the view, meditation, and conduct in this way to relate these three sets of two things, yeah. And so this dynamism or dynamic energy we talk about. Earlier we talked about this, our mind nature is endowed with Ngorangi Tukje in the Tibetan, but it's essence, nature, and compassion, or this Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya really means our mind nature is empty in essence, some. However, its nature is luminous. Luminous means in the Tibetan means somehow our mind nature has its own ability to understand or recognize our own nature. And then the third quality or attribute is called Tukje in Tibetan, which means great compassion in somehow in English translate that, but different translations I see in this book I think called great response or responsiveness, or we will look at that. So somehow in the ground, when we talk about the ground is here is more like arises as anything at all. Whether there is realization or not, there is a universe of appearances and possibility means whether there is Buddha or whether it's no, there is sentient beings. The ground itself never waved or never waved or never moved or never changed. So somehow the dynamism or dynamic energy, due to the dynamic energy, when we talk about dynamic energy, is more potentiality that somehow it's unbalanced in some way, and it arises as appearances and possibilities that we talk about. While these appearances and possibilities arise, but they are still not straying from this ground. So that we need to know. Through the view, need to establish ground means through somehow we have to have certainty on the reality to our own understanding of what really it is. It helps us to then we have better idea of what is enlightenment is, or what awakening is, what is Buddhahood is, and what kind of a path we need to take. And here also the different teachings request different practice, and some practice that's much more effortful than other practices. And especially comes to some sutra teachings requests very much about restrictions of certain things. And then comes to Tantra, it have a lot of freedoms, but still it requests more methods and realizations. And comes to Dzogchen and Mahamudra, then we can see here it's not effortfully what we can do, but more how we can rest effortlessly rather than effortfully. So here is introducing that that part. The concept or the belief or the uncertainty or you have on these meaning of we are already awakened beings, then it's much more easier to understand what the attainment of the Buddhahood is. We are not creating some new things too effortfully, but it's more effortlessly we need to recognize, and somehow we need to rest in our mind. And at that point, then body and speech actions are not really helping our understanding or resting, but rather and speaking and bodily actions need to subside or need to put aside to rest in our mind, my nature. Okay, next Tibetan. De gun sha yang rong yin ga me de mi ju che tan me lam zha nian xin zhe wa song nian zhe zi zhang ji re mi yu ru xi xin me ba zang nong de xin me de me lo ro nong zang var ka ren gi chu su dog ba re.
Though things arise, none of them has any independent nature whatsoever. Like water in a mirage, a dream, an echo, a phantom emanation, a reflection, a castle in the air, or a hallucination, all things are clearly apparent, yet do not truly exist. They merely manifest adventitiously, without basis or support. You should realize that all these manifestations are temporary, adventitious phenomena.
Mm-hmm. We all probably know that Buddhist teaching in Diamond Sutra, there's 8 examples of these phenomena are illusory. So most of them are here, and mirage and the dream and so forth. And usually when this teaching, of course, start with the Four Noble Truths. And we all know Four Noble Truths that start with suffering, and somehow it's ironically Buddha remind us we need to recognize suffering. So that seems obvious, but somehow we don't really know, or we don't really recognize our own suffering. And so the suffering is to be known, the Buddhist teaching. And of course, everyone think that's obvious why we need to talk about. But here, Buddha was reminding us that we all have suffering, but we think there is we can choose or we can alternate that suffering and happiness in English translation, but more like enjoyment or well-being. That is talking about here, and somehow Buddha treats or understands all samsaric activities or activities or things somehow involve suffering. And of course, there's three types of suffering. Suffering is, you can see, if you are kind of really ill or some sort of accident, or you have pain, that's obvious. And then it's called changing suffering. It's suffering of changing. It could change some suffering to other. And then most of suffering is called chabanduyi jitunga, is all-pervasive suffering that so our life is nothing but suffering. So that's somehow maybe some of you may don't want to know that, but that's somehow introduced in Buddhist teaching, and there's some benefits of that. I think then we can see samsara is not that attractive place to be. Somehow we need to fix this long-term problem. In order to solving the problem, then of course Buddhist teaching goes towards what is the cause of suffering, and that is ignorance. And now here, this nature of our mind, it has a dynamism that somehow imbalanced and stirred, and now we have these arises colors and shapes and forms, and somehow we treat that as an object, not our own, and that's called delusion or ignorant, or mistakenly kind of take as an object. So Tibetan Marikpa in Ma is negation, Rik is awareness, which means unaware rather than ignorant in a Sanskrit. What's unaware is we don't know what appears to us is from us, or part of us, or dynamism. Here is talking about whatever appears, the appearances and possibilities that appears to beings, or beings' perception in all their varieties, that arises from this dynamism, but still they are or kind of illusion or dreamlike image. So that is the point here. Though things arise, none of them has any independent nature whatsoever. Independent nature is often talked about madhyamikas, that we always have independent, dependent, and interdependent origination sometimes. It means if things that doesn't have own nature, they need to rely on something else. We all does. We have depend on parents to be born, and still while we are alive, we need to rely on food and shelter and all survival things. We need to rely on something. Means we don't have we are not kind of independent nature. We don't have independent nature. So that's the logic, or that's the reason that everything is either you call emptiness, or everything is not as what you see. It's these like water in a mirage and a dream, an echo, a phantom, emanation and a reflection, a castle in the air, or hallucination. These all we sort of understand what does that mean. Especially dream. Think about dream. That dream images are. While we are dreaming, we think it's there, but once we wake up, the dream images are gone. So it means dream images are not real thing. And then they merely manifest advantageously, so it's all a temporary thing. And without the basis or support, that's any other source. You should realize that all these manifestations are temporary, advantageous phenomena. So knowing that is, we have nature that is permanent, or we can call permanent. We have shortage of terms, so we just call permanent. And but the rest of what we see is advantageous phenomena. Knowing that, then we the idea or teaching purpose is, if we know that, then samsara is less attractive, less reliable, less people would take less seriously, and if we can, so we need to take samsara a little bit less seriously. That's the main message here. If doing that, then of course nature is calm, rise naturally. The stirring up or distorted or distracted our mind is through, we often call 5 poisons. Yeah, 5 poisons are sort of kind of internal conflicts that we are fighting with, and of course that is a subtle to gross level. It's just unaware to separating to self, to others, to rise desire and hatred, to then rage, anger and jealous and hatred and so forth. These are kind of built kind of step by step in our mind, and then samsara is of course a very terrible place, and is then caught in a very difficult situation. Sometimes we can not rest ourselves, or we cannot even control ourselves in a samsara. So that's it would helps our understanding and our way of interact with the samsaric situation. Next one. Lendo shan jo sam je rong yin le ru wa ma ga kun de chung chu jong chu kun de sun yin so bo chu. Next page. Do me ngon le jo ba me ji. I think these 4 lines we need to read together.
Okay. Due to the nature of spontaneously a present wakened mind, there is a continuous display, the magical illusion of samsara and nirvana. Since this entire magical display is fully encompassed within basic space, you should know that it is not from the scope of primordial being.
Yeah, we discussed this quite long now, and you can see this sometimes sort of repetition, not exactly word by word. And early we introduced term that called Gada and Lundrup. Gada is primordial purity, and Lundrup is spontaneous present or spontaneously present. These two mainly talks about the Dharmakaya and the Sambhogakaya. The Dharmakaya itself, when we talk about Dharmakaya, means introduced in the sutras that call emptiness, and that emptiness is sort of beyond our concept. Yeah? Beyond concept means we cannot really say that whether exists or not exists, or neither or both. So that's why it's beyond the concept. Itself, we cannot really talk about the confusion itself, because it has nothing to talk about. However, when we talk about Lundrup, earlier we talked about this mind, nature itself has ability to aware, which we call luminous. So that has dynamism or dynamic energy, unceasing dynamic energy we call. And usually at the beginning, these Sambhogakaya form is contained in Dharmakaya, where it's not manifested yet, things not manifested yet, but somehow this dynamism is imbalanced or stirred, and now we see things that sometimes used as a dang, which is translated as a expression or a manifestation or some sort of shining forth. And these shining forth, due to there's here is called Rolba. This translation seems to use as a magical display, so you can see the dynamism that shine forth or manifested as this dawn, and then how somehow magical display happened, and then individual beings to look at this or treat or understand these things, whether pure form or unpure form. And unpure form is samsara, and somehow we caught in these nets of this illusion, and that's called samsara. And this is also a magical illusion of samsara and nirvana. So this, now we caught in this. However, since the entire magical display is fully encompassed within this space, and you should know that it does not stray from the scope of primordial beings, or means whatever appears, still occur in dharmata. It's not outside of dharmata. That's why the recognition is more important than what you do practice that sometimes solidify more kind of isolation and so forth. We need to open our mind to connect to our nature of our mind to recognize that rather than isolate ourselves to this is sort of my lineage and this is my Dharma center, and of course we need that to develop our Dharma center, but somehow sometimes embrace the more non-sectarian way to do that. Okay, next one. Dēne tam jī xiāng chūp sēm jī ngā jī dzō gōng dzō mā yī tōng gōng dzō rōng yī lēn dzō rōng yōng yī xie dzō. Only 3 lines.
Within this, everything is the scope of the awakened mind. With that single perfection, all is perfect. Without being made so, everything is perfect. Naturally occurring timeless awareness is by nature spontaneously perfect.
Yes, the Dzogchen and the Mahamudra, of course, we know that recognition is very important. In the Dzogchen teachings, we have Ngo Hi, Zal Dzog, Tenpa Top. So these 3 are step by step. Ngo Hi means recognition or recognizing or to recognize. And then Tenpa Top, stabilize. Once you recognize, it's not, that's not, just recognizing is not enough, so need to stabilize. And in order to stabilize, of course, Buddhist teachings, earlier we talked about view, meditation, and contact. So the view is almost like a recognition that we need to recognize who we are, what it is, and where we're coming from. And then, in order to stabilize, the meditation comes. The meditation often used in the Tibetan, sometimes the meditation is not meditation. Meditation is familiarization, is that Tibetan way of saying. So the meditation is not really just, I don't know English, just that works. Meditation is not meditation. Meditation is familiarization. Oh yeah, familiarization. Yeah. So means somehow familiarize. In order to do that, then repetition is most important, powerful, and also maybe only method is the repetition. So that's important. And then sorry, I think I switched that. Zal Dzog is the second one. Zal Dzog means you gain power over or gain power over to establish your view, or your realization is the second one. That sort of meditation you need to do it. Then final one, stabilization, means then now you are fully accomplished in this realization, and now your realization or your view is not not distracted or is influenced by external forces. So that is important part. And these are important, and meanwhile, this Juba, the conduct, is also is called the companion of meditation. So meditation, our conduct is important to the meditation, and then there's a lot of conduct or a lot of practice we can do, and the chanting, reciting, and so forth. All those are important. And mainly these three lines are talking about the view that we needed to recognize that this awakened mind, the more awakened mind, or in the more awakened mind, is subsume everything. This is primordially perfected. It's not just temporarily or newly created things. Okay, next one. Shangzhozhen ne nondame non lin krundiche non chuzme naya te yezar le yubiron yinji non sinkrundi non zorur varashar.
Given that awakened mind is neither apparent nor not apparent, the outer and inner worlds of samsara and nirvana do not exist as phenomena, yet arise nonetheless as a myriad display. The universe of appearances and possibilities, whether of samsara or nirvana, because they are, by nature, the stirring of mind's dynamic energy.
Mm-hmm. So I think now we already know these terms and the concept or the meaning of this teaching. So most important part is if you want to spend a few minutes or a few hours in a day to recite this is much more powerful than just one person introduce or teach to listen one time and then it's forget about it a while and later want to look at what really those says, but it takes time to digest, and also the blessing itself comes with the recitation, and it's important to familiarize not only the meditation, but also the recitation, understanding of it. So that's more important if you want to spend. Of course, then each individual have own preferences to practice. Some people like deity yoga, some people like Ngondo practice, some people like maybe Tsalung, the 6 yogas of Naropa, and 5 paths of Mahamudra, and so forth. So whatever we want to do. And not only these texts, any text, chanting is very, very important things, and especially in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, chanting as much as important as meditation. And through chanting you can meditate, but somehow through meditation you cannot chant. So it's yeah. So that's maybe too much promoting Tibetan Buddhist practice. And yeah, that's important part. Okay, next one. Sharzam ni ne rayi dombe so jewa mele jewa no de non de ni ne jewa gayon. Gagba mele gagba no ma ya gagba me de juma dombe so ne ba ni ne be chu me de nen ken shi me ro me be. In
simply arising, forms are by nature empty. From what is unborn, there manifests what seems to be born. But even as it manifests, nothing whatsoever has been born. From what is unceasing, there manifests what seems to cease. But there is no cessation. These are illusory expressions of emptiness. Even with abiding, there is nothing that abides. There is no basis on which anything could abide. Within the context in which there is no coming or going, regardless of what manifests, it never exists as what it seems to be. And so one is reduced to merely labeling it as having no independent nature.
Mm-hmm. So usually when we see things and then, of course, based on that, we think things exist. So that's why we see colors and shapes and so forth. And also we put value on objects based on our assumption that things exist. And here introducing that while you are seeing things, at that same time the things appearing, there's no thing. So knowing not only sometimes people or we can think that things can temporary, that it comes and goes. So that's why it's one way of thinking that we can reduce our desire. But here is saying that directly, the moment you see things are not there. So that is the powerful message here, which also shows that things' nature is empty. The empty means emptiness also needs to see while you are seeing things appear to you. And the moment you see, you need to see things are empty, not that things goes away or pass away. And that is the moment, and powerful understanding of that is a profound understanding of Buddhist teaching, because due to the empty nature, things could appear because there's nothing stop to appearing. There's no what do we call purity, or if things exist as these, then cannot appear as something else. So things are all empty, then means things could appear anyway. So that's why this term, I think English also called appearances and possibilities. The possibility part is we cannot really say things cannot appear in a certain form and shapes and so forth. But here, there's no restriction or there's no blockage of appearing things. And that empty base allowed to appear, and also this dynamism we call the appearing, is while it's appearing, its nature never depart from things. So that's why while it's appearing, there's no appearance in there. It's an important teaching, and also, of course, everything against what our we call normal belief, or our basic belief. That is the purpose of Dharma. Dharma should be against our delusional thinking or ignorant. If Dharma is agreed our mistakes, then would not have much help to us. So rest, I think, there is not much too difficult to understand, and then we read next one. Maybe only these 2 lines first. No te yon zale rong sha we den zhe ni je rang yin da zang ju.
Sensory appearances, moreover, arise naturally due to the dynamic energy of awareness, and so their nature is described as a purely symbolic way, as one of interdependent connection.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Nagarjuna's teaching, we have interdependent is important. That reason or that's that's due to all dharmas are interdependent, so we can see everything's empty. But here, even that interdependent connection or origination is just a gesture or symbolic way of saying it. There is not really interdependent connections in the Dharma. So when we say interdependent Dharma, and Dharmas need to rely on cause in order to grow such things, it needs to seed, soil, moist, and so forth. So here, the connection is not there. He's talking about, but these sometimes comes more logical explanations comes in Madhyamaka teachings, so it's sometimes maybe it's difficult. And Patrul Rinpoche's writing, maybe you already familiar with, but he say these texts is not like these treaties that sometimes we call Madhyamikas and Pramanas, valid cognitions, treaties that it's very difficult to understand or conceptualize. But this is sort of direct communication that we could understand directly, even discuss with sort of Buddhist profound philosophy, but it's somehow the skill of language communication is so skillful that we could understand directly without much problem to think very kind of hard to what they're really saying. And that's one thing. Of course, I told you this joke before. If there's two person communicating or chatting or talking about something, both don't know what they're talking about. Means philosophy. So if you want to go to Buddhist philosophy to taste that don't know what they're talking about, there's called Madhyamikas. You can spend a lot of time on that, and rest you can summarize here too. Anyone's majors philosophy in here? Okay, good. That's good. Okay, next one. Tsali sha na ran du ne sha da ma sha cho ton re me za yang da zang ong ga me be tam che da da bon yur me bing xiong chop sen le yu ba dor za me chung rum bo jin zul xiong chop sen jen song be den be le de sum pa.
Even in the very moment that things seem to arise due to that dynamic energy, they do so without being subject to extremes or divisions, with no question of whether or not something arises, and even dynamic energy is just a symbolic term with no finite essence whatsoever. So within the context, it is never subject to transition or change. Nothing strays in the slightest from the awakened mind. This is the third section of the precious treasury of the basic space of phenomena, presenting the metaphors for awakened mind.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, here, these you can see the dynamic energy as this quotation mark put there. Emphasizing that we talk a lot about this dynamic energy or Tibetan style. Somehow is the cause or the due to dynamic energy appearances and possibilities that arise from that. And of course, it's due to philosophy, maybe not. We cannot really pinpoint what dynamic energy is, and of course somehow there is. We're trying to use a logic, as the empty essence and luminous nature and this pervasive compassion somehow manifest or arise as these dualistic appearances and possibilities that originally not there. So between there, then these dynamic energies somehow mitigating these two to connect seems the cause of three kayas or three waking bodies to arise as samsaric three realms or so forth. Or we some can talk about body, speech, and mind, and physical, verbal, and kind of conscious nature. Of course, that is myth. once we talk about these causal relationships, then it's we cannot trace back. And that's why it's saying even dynamic energy is just a symbolic term. It's just a symbolic term. We talked about earlier that this interdependent connection is just a symbolic way of expressing or saying. Similarly, this dynamic energy is just another term we use, but it's also a symbolic term. That's why when we reading Choying Dzod or the basic space of Dharma Dhatu, we need to sometimes loosen ourselves to don't grasping on the terms that comes in many ways. And this is chapter 3, end of chapter 3. Maybe I haven't give you time to discuss our question and comments. If you have first, we can do that now. Can you, Brian?
Yeah.
Just for clarification, when we're talking dynamic energy, is this the same thing as, say, the fluctuations of the mind? Like dynamic energy going from samsara to nirvana. I'm trying to figure this out and process it. Like on any given day, I can go from being in nirvana to being in samsara, just as my mind fluctuates back and forth, and then other points in time I'm more connected, maybe more in tune with bodhicitta, maybe. Am I on the right? Is this right, or is this whole dynamic energy something separate than that?
We could think about that way, but here really talk about what the source of our, either we call samsara, or conceptually we can conceptualize as nirvana as a good place and samsara as a bad place. Somehow we are caught in this right, wrong, black, white kind of concept that what we beings do. So since if there's nothing at the beginning, nothing but these three kayas also, we are not talking about physical bodies. It's just the source, the nature, that representation nature, or the nature is the empty, luminous compassion. That's not arise yet or not manifested yet. That's called inner nature. Nature dharmata, or nature the bodhicitta. So then, if hypothetically we ask them why we see samsaric things, things that appears like many ways and so forth, then making how these two connect, three kayas and three realms or samsara, and somehow the three kayas are really the basis of everything, but then somehow this dynamic energy occur due to the imbalance of the basic space. So then somehow we kind of conceptualize and dualistically treat things as subject and objects. So the dynamic energy is more like here is talking about ontological level. Ontological level means how things being, how things happen, how things are not really we are kind of fluctuating or we are going back and forth to practice. But this is more understanding of view. So knowing or understanding correct view is powerful because, last session we talked about this knowing what you believe is a very powerful thing. It could lead you good or bad what you believe, but especially this understanding of we are not away from or we are nothing but Trikaya, then that belief makes us or change our behavior or our even our belief itself. So it's powerful things that's why then Dzogchen and Mahamudra practice is we are not trying to create new things, but we try to get in who we are. So that's maybe if that helps or that's not.
Just leave some more questions.
Exactly. It's a little bit philosophy here, that's why.
Someone say something? John?
Okay, so dynamic energy is what causes phenomena to manifest, right? To
Yes.
appear, that causes the appearances to come, whether it's in a dream or in, so suppose, waking reality, the samsaric existence. It's the display, right? The display of phenomena.
Yes.
And that it's, the illusion is that it's empty of inherent existence, right? It's like that. Is that correct, sort of?
Inherent existence, use
Permanent existence, or, in other words, it's illusory, is what I mean, empty of true existence. Yeah. It's that, so dynamic energy is part of the ground, right? So that's not.
So dynamic energy is the sort of not fully ripened, not totally hidden. So the between what you call connector of the samsara and the nirvana here. It's once fully ripened or fully manifest, it's called magical display in here, or it's either you call expression or manifestation. But then when we talk about nature, our nature of our mind is down with trikayas, means it's also hidden. We don't manifest. We don't feel it. We don't see it. But somehow these two are, because in reality, there's nothing but three kayas. Somehow we see things that is must coming from here rather than coming from there. So then how this, if we say how this empty luminous nature hidden in our mind nature, somehow it's manifest as magical display or things or even colors and forms. Better maybe to start with color and forms, then we solidify this as an object and so forth. But somehow it's I'm trying to make sense, I think, to must have there's something between. And that is sort of dynamism or dynamic energy. I think quantum physics sometimes seems to make sense, but now they're changing. Now black hole has a whole bunch of stuff that they're not sucking in, they're just kind of keeping there for the different form. So it's that's why I'm saying if we try to pinpoint, it's difficult. But somehow, if you want to make sense through these, and then
The word potential or possibility is kind of a dynamic thing, right? It's latent, it can spontaneously arise.
Can you say that?
Yeah, the concept, the word potential, is at least in physics, it has the possibility to arise.
exactly that sutras we talk about when we talk about Buddha nature. Buddha nature is potentiality. But here is potential, but it's also unrest, kind of a dynamic energy that ready, it's ready to press, or what they call, come out. Yes. Can you?
Kinetic energy? Oh, in motion, kinetic energy.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh. Yes, it's already movement is happening.
I see.
Yeah. So that movement is, so of course, this is Buddhist term, and of course, when we communicate with people, need to use terms to communicate this Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, or empty, luminous, and compassion. But it's you can understand. This talking about the nature, whatever. I'm not saying totally you have freedom to create new terms, but it's, if new terms are helpful, that's also can use here. So the making sense is somehow nature is nothing, but then it's appear as something, and how these mutation or manifestation or arise. So some is rise step by step in a subtle process. That is talking about here. If you can say, well, there is no need to any process or any steps, it's just three kayas arise as samsara, then it's fine. And also, we could say samsara never exists or never rise either, so it's fine. But somehow these terms that use in here, dynamic energy and magical displays, are poetic language that sometimes help us. And then which means also the samsara is nothing but nirvana. So it helps to connect in that way. Okay, more?
Yeah, there are a couple of questions on.
Brian?
There are a couple of questions on Zoom, if that's
Oh.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the first one's from Choying Lamo Khenpo. She's asking, can you speak more or can you tell more about Nirmanakaya? Is that as compassion for other beings because they are in ignorance? Can you
Yes, the three kayas, of course, that usually almost all Mahayana teachings or Buddhist teachings we have, the Dharmakaya is empty aspect, and Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya is more sort of forms and colors and so forth. And in Nirmanakaya, then we have many levels, but also, especially Buddha Shakyamuni is Nirmanakaya, form to come to help us. When these three kayas are situated or already exist in our nature of our mind, then somehow this Tibetan term tukje. One time I tried to translate it differently, but it doesn't work well either. So in English, tukje, Tibetan tuk means heart, je means supreme or the Lord or the best. So most of the time when you say tukje, Tibetan use compassion or great compassion. In our Lokiteshvara, we call tukje Khenpo, the great compassionate one. So since tukje's work here, but one time I tried to translate great intelligence, but the great mind, great intelligence, great heart. So either way, it's something that I thought the empty aspects is empty. It's not talking about there's not talking about awareness. Luminous aspect is, we could think as awareness aspect, but still not talking about directly. I thought Tukje is talking about the wisdom, the awareness aspect or the cognitive aspect of the nature. So nature's empty and luminous and more like intelligent or great intelligent. However, these involve with the manifestation of the Nirmanakayas, so it's called Tukje Kunchap, or pervasive, or any realm, for any sentient beings, any areas that can appear. That's why Kunchap is pervasive. It's not saying it's pervaded by kind of one thing. It's pervaded by different animations and emanations and so forth to pervade. And sometimes Tukje Natso, the variety or various emanations. So it's not necessarily human form or not necessarily animal form or not necessarily in the trees or grass, but more kind of solid entities or stuff, even maybe this kind of internet and Zooms and computers and so forth. So we could think about that in the Bodhicitta aspiration prayer, chapter 10 is talking about, may I become a bridge, may I become a boat, and so forth. So the emanation could appear any form or any function. Is not necessarily have, at least appears to don't have conscious, but who knows? Yeah, we think we are the most intelligent, intelligent beings. Others are much less, and there is also core objects that doesn't have an intelligence, but that's maybe not true. And that is not maybe good answer, but somehow, yes, that's involved with emanation and manifestation of the Nirmanakaya, yes, benefiting other beings.
Thank you, Khenpo. So Brian Lee had a question too. He said, Khenpo mentioned that one way to practice the text is to recite it. Is it beneficial to eventually being able to say it out loud or in our own language by memorization? How does one integrate this with his or her daily practice exactly?
Yes, and yes, of course we need to read own language. I think particularly this Choying is meaning is important. Sometimes some rituals the melody is important, and also some rhythms and so forth. Some group chant texts we need to chant together to make harmony, rhythm, and so forth. But meaning is more important. So read in English or any your native language available translation, and then of course you can read this anytime. But in order to fit in your daily practice, then of course the refuge prayer, Bodhicitta, or Ngondo practice go first, and then read whatever you can, one chapter, two chapter, whole text, and after that, then dedication is ideal practice. Yes. Yeah. I think one more we can.
I guess a lot of it just highlights, my own ignorance to learning more, right? And you say as we learn and we understand, and then we stabilize our understanding of the three kayas through meditation, right? I guess I've been coming here for 5 months, is we tend to have a lot of mantra and a lot of that, but not a lot of instruction on the meditation. It seems like we recite until we reach a kind of a centered place, and then we rest in calm, abiding presence. But that, I know other traditions we're going to go with, they're actually going to be a meditation practice. So when you say meditation, is it just that calm, abiding presence that comes as we kind of recite until our mind calms and then we're sit in that state? Is it more the essence of we study and then the meditation more becomes a contemplative state? And what is the difference, I guess, between the mantra, the contemplation, and the meditation. Because sometimes I could find myself sitting in contemplation and then completely absorbed for 20, 30 minutes in what would appear to be meditation. But it is just calm abiding without any actual effort. I don't know if there's a... Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like in the Vajrayana practice is a meditation. Are there practices for it that are not recitation of mantra, but more things that we should be? Is it the visualization practice?
Yeah, that's really, really
yeah,
good.
that's exactly it. Where's the direct instruction on meditating? Or, because we sit for 10 minutes, like we'll recite for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and then they go, okay, sit for 10, and then you're like, okay, ding, bye. Where's the meditation? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, somehow, sometimes maybe I'm kind of exaggerating a lot, and also not truth maybe, but in Tibetan practice we don't really talk much about meditation. Somehow it's called practice. And of course that's not good for modern days. The promotion of meditation in our 223 21st century is the meditation is somehow so only that kind of count as a real practice of that, whatever that does that mean. But traditionally there's 3 steps must go, and it's called study, contemplation, and meditation. So first, need to study, or sometimes called listening, which means need to understand the message, the teaching word, what it does that mean. And then we call contemplation. That is also not called as meditation. Of course, that could be meditation, but as think about the meaning. What does that really mean? It's need to somehow fully understand what we are talking about. This view that what ground is, how it's related, and how it's and so forth. Then meditation comes once you don't have not the problem, fully understand the words and meanings, and then meditate on something. The meditation is, of course, then have many layers. It's mainly term we use shamatha and vipassana, shine and langtong in the Tibetan. That could imply all the way to Dzogchen practice or Mahamudra practice. So we are especially Vajrayana-oriented practice to all Tibetans, and then especially these sadhanas called the chantings, and all sadhanas involved with Jirem and Dzogchen. So Jirem means generation stage, and Dzogchen means completion stage. Jirem itself, the generations stage itself, mainly means visualization. So that involves the shamatha and vipassana, if we can use that term, calm abiding and insight. Yeah. How? Because the calm abiding means if you stabilize your mind, that means come abiding. And insight means the vividness of the appearing deity's image to your mind. So that is called insight. And of course, in that case, then the meditation is, the visualization is the main meditation. It's compress both shamatha and vipassana. And same thing, Dzogchen and Mahayana. If your mind is stable, and how clear or how vividness of your awareness, how sharp your awareness is inside. So that is kind of meditation. Somehow traditional introduce study, contemplation, and meditation. And of course, then meditation has these two ways of meditation. Some people think if first you analyze everything, then you need to settle in meditate on what you believe, or you meditate first and then you understand, the full understand arise later. But that's up to individuals, and different lineages has introducing these two meditations that how we can do. But yeah, it's I think better to have at least these three steps or three aspects of our practice that should involve in our meditation and practice. Take a little bit of time. Okay, yes, one more.
So, do you guys ever? Because I've seen it done before. Do you guys ever lead like guided visualizations of the deities?
Oh, yeah.
Because I haven't seen you.
Can you say one more?
Like I've seen people within the Vajrayana where the teachers will lead guided visualizations, like through the entirety of it. Do you guys ever? I haven't seen you, Drupon. I haven't seen it happen yet. Do you guys ever do that as a practice or lead into meditation, where you guide through the entirety, or?
Could be, but I'm sure there is some many. I remember Kenshin was here. He's talking about how to visualize Avalokiteshvara in his teaching, and the Tibetans are interesting group that either you like or not, but. Sometimes they call this is so profound teaching in the Vajrayana so high, but soon as you shave your head and wear monk's clothes, either you are 2 years old or 3 years old, you need to participate the highest Vajrayana sadhanas. So it's kind of here it's a little bit different. Like people have not much that kind of chance to participate. It's not really training, but it's naturally you become, what you need to do. So that's why don't really teach step by step. I mean, there is step-by-step teaching, but it's not always emphasized in that way, because through the chanting, Tibetans say you need to understand meaning through the words. Means you need to read, and kind of that image comes in your mind. And then, of course, sadhanas has these steps how to do. And I think another good opportunities, if you have time, this coming Avalokiteshvara Drupchen, which is nothing but sort of mantra recitation and visualization of the deity. Yes, and that that's why Tibetans are more like to chanting than just quietly doing nothing. It's different, a little bit different practice. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Khenpo. We'll go to page 24 in the prayer book to do these short dedications. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Dukongpa Ratnashri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Yeah, here the study, practice, contemplation, and meditation. So that it's sort of recommend step by step in that way.
And in the Choying Dzod, isn't it the chapter 10 or 11 that gets into the actual practice, right? In the Choying Dzod.
It's more for meditation, yes. Yes.
For meditation, there's more instruction about how to engage in
Here, the text, maybe now, one more, you can go. And sometimes we call text, this is called text. Text means somehow we need to study or understand. Sadhana means, of course, understand, but it's chanting, for chanting. And the text is compressed into this view, meditation, and sort of fruit. But sadhanas compress with these preliminary preparations and then main practice of the Jirim and Dzogrim, the generation stage and completion stage. That's the main part of that. So here, of course, there's no Jirim and Dzogrim in here, but it's more gazing or looking at your mind. But it's more like Dzogrim rather than the Jirim. So the main point I want to make here is sadhanas are set differently than text. The ritual text is set differently than text that's talk about these more philosophical things. Oh, thank you for coming every day.
Coming every day.
Thank
Thank you very much.
you so much. Yeah. Okay. Today, I let you go and bye online. Thank you for coming.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We love you.
I see you here on on iPad.
Thank you from Chile.
Thank you, Khenpo.
Okay. Take care, Bunny, and John, and Isaac, and James,
Bye.
and
Bye,
many
Khenpo.
more.
I'm not so sure how to what to make of that. I think maybe this is not good.
He took it, I think. Okay, okay. Maybe, okay.
So I've seen.
He dropped it. No?
Or like that visualization in your mind prior to it, and that's kind of where I was going.
Something.
This is different, and Mahamudra and Dzogchen are different, they're unelaborate practices, where the empty state of the essence of your mind is the key, is the thing, so that when you talk about
So what are the snacks for that?
is very essential to that. So it's not a visual, strong visualization, it's really trying to dive deep into samadhi, and also, it's not just the kamabadi, because it has these other subtle aspects like cognizance, in kamabadi. So it's not like you're gonna get a huge, powerful instruction. You're gonna hear a lot of songs about yogis who made these realizations in an unelaborate practice. So you're not gonna get specific instructions on that because it's unelaborate, it's beyond concept. So that's
It might eliminate a certain amount of during those restrictions.
And I have no problem.
To let people know what to do, especially people who have
Oh yeah, we were thinking about
doing like
Yeah, that's what we were gonna do.
a 15-minute or 10-minute
Yeah,
meditation.
letting go
Can't
actually
follow the rules.
creates
Yeah, we're gonna do that. Actually, Melanie brought that up, so we're gonna do that. I think Wednesday night and then Thursday.
the wisdom, the prajna.
It should be a standard practice.
I like what they do at the Garchin Institute. We have like a briefing before, kind of get everybody's attention, and then blah blah blah.
Stilling the mind,
Yeah, all the way.
quiet the mind,
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah, Mel had
your
that idea, so we're
intrinsic
gonna-
awareness is a useful thing.
Because I think-
Show up for multiple.
Yeah, we can talk about why, but yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So is everything,
Where I
Virginia, the chanting thing, because it's perceived to become an issue.
You know, this is, again, but I'll be so in there, and in my country, this is what I'm saying.
But that is elaborate practice, that's deity yoga, so it's different from what they're called Mahamudra. Well, Mahamudra